What's up, guys? Kevin Thomas, John Epps here, Moving the Chains, our upper state, lower state preview show, John. It's crazy. This season's flown by. We've only got 10 games left this week, another 5 next week. Boy, oh boy, do we have some great football on tap here.
Yeah, and we had some really good football this past week. We had, like every week, we've had some blowouts. We had some surprises. But the good games have been really, really good. Last week we were at a thriller.
Mm-hmm.
There were another couple good games around the state, and boy, looking at the upper state, lower state championships this week, I think we're gonna have some that are gonna be pretty cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple of them I've got no idea.
Yeah, some of these games will be tough to pick for sure. This is your guys' first time tuning in. We really appreciate that. Check us out, movingchains.com. That's got all of our links to our social and whatnot back and forth. It's got all of our graphics on there as well. Check out our Facebook page. You're on it now. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all at Movin Chains, MoveInChains. Check out our interviews we've got throughout the year. We've got some great guys still in the playoffs. We talked to Coach Wilkes. Talked to a few other big ones. We talked to Grayson Loftus with the starters. Definitely a lot of great interviews still for you guys to check out. Our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. John and I go live on Tuesday nights. Preview shows will be done again next week. Joe Henderson and I do a recorded recap show on Sundays that comes out. Tune in for that on our podcast apps. And then obviously our Friday Night Spaces on Twitter. It's a great little scoreboard show we're doing. It's a lot of fun to do there. A couple comments here before we get into our games of the week. We've got Patrick saying, "What's up, guys?" Patrick, good to see you, buddy. Huge game this week for you guys. Maybe over at the reservation, see how that goes. Chandler says Johnsonville's had the toughest road out of 1A. They have played some tough ball games, no doubt about it. The Flashes are looking really good right now. Patrick says, do 5A first, LOL. We'll see. Let me talk to John here. We'll see what we can do. Bradley says, hello, guys. Hope you're doing well. Bradley, good to see you, my man. Appreciate you hopping in here as always. Zach says, good evening, gentlemen. Got some all-out wars coming on Friday. Hope to see y'all in Powdersville, see the Red Devils play. Yeah, that's going to be a big game, too. Maybe the reservation, I don't know where we're going to be yet. John may be out of town. I may be out of town. We shall see. Bradley said, I'm really nervous this week. Going to cause me to have a heart attack. Yeah, that's a big one, John.
Hey, it's going to be fun, though.
For sure. We're here on our Upper State, Lower State preview show from Security Advantage Federal Credit Union, John. Let's look at our Kona games of the week. Obviously, they're all big at this point. We're going to go through all 10 of them, but we've got 5 we kind of circled out. Do we want to go 1 to 5? Is that what we decided?
Oh, sure. Let's do 5A first, then.
5A first.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
The game that Patrick asked about, the game that Bradley's talking about, the rematch of the 2021 5A state title, John. We've got Dutch Fork traveling to Gaffney. Dutch Fork 12-1, Gaffney 9-3. You know, this game last year in the state title was an all-time classic, a thriller. Gaffney won 22-19. Dutch Fork right now they're rolling, John. They beat Spartanburg 63-14 last week. You know, Gaffney got some revenge. They beat Burns, who had beaten them in Week 10. Took those guys down 34-28. The game wasn't really that close. You know, what do you think here? I mean, if you're just looking at it from like the way the teams are playing, you would say, all right, Dutch Fork is just rolling right now. They're going to be tough to beat. But then you look at Gaffney, and they got the home field advantage. And it is a heck of a home field advantage, John.
It certainly is. It certainly is. But Dutch Fork is... They are on another level right now with the way they're playing. If this game was, I'd say, end of the regular season, after the back half of the season, I like Gaffney a lot. I like Gaffney a lot. And Gaffney is playing very good football. I don't know if there's anybody that's going to be, you could pick 5 teams in the state. You might could pick 5 teams out of North Carolina to try to play Dutch Fork. I don't know if anybody's going to beat them. What they're doing, they're putting up a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, them scoring 35 against Dorman a couple weeks ago was a little bit of a letdown offensively.
Yeah,
they put up 35. You know, they are absolutely rolling. Gaffney, on the other hand, has had a tough road.
They have.
They have had a tough road, and they have answered the bell every single time lately. Last few weeks, played, you could say, the hottest team in the state last week.
Yeah,
the Burns Rebels, who knocked off Tokar's team in the first round. You know, what Burns had done up to this point was very impressive. They were making plays to win ball games, just doing what it took. And Gaffney, like you said, was a 6-point game. Well, it really wasn't it wasn't a one-score game. A majority of that ball game, Gaffney was up by 2 scores. Really, the entire ball game, at least 2 scores in that game. They really controlled that game. which is great.
Yeah.
But Dutch Fork, they're not controlling games. They are taking their opponents and just absolutely shoving their face in the dirt.
Yeah.
And we had this almost identical conversation, I feel like, last year, going into the weekend of champions, saying, boy, Dutch Fork's just too good. They're just dominating everybody. They got this, they got that. And I know we're saying the same thing. I'm saying the same thing this year. I got to go with Dutch Fork. It's going to be everything is in Gaffney's favor as far as the home crowd goes. They're going to have a huge crowd. It's going to be raucous. Reservation's going to be great. They're going to have all that on their side. I just don't see it being enough.
Dutch Fork averaging 44 on offense, 13 on defense. Gaffney averaging 30 on offense, 21 on defense. Dutch Fork, we know about Jarvis Green. I think last week he played a half, had like a 9 for $191, 3 touchdowns. Like, he is going for $150 plus, $175 plus a week. It seems like he is just on fire right now. The quarterback Appler is back healthy. He's playing good ball for them. And I mentioned it every week, the defense, John. Hinton and Perry and Dillon showed up. They held Mr. Football finalist, Shrine Bowl quarterback Raheem Jeter last week. 6 for 23, 2 interceptions. I mean, that's a kid that's going to play on Saturdays, one of the best quarterbacks in the state.
Not just Saturdays, but FBS level, Power 5.
Yeah, the Vikings had no chance last week. And that's a good offense, with Carter and Danton and those guys there. They shut them down. Gaffney, like you said, they're playing good ball. Grayson Loftus is playing some of his best football right now. Had 2 really good weeks in a row against Man and against Burns, throwing the ball around. The running backs, McDowell and Tate are really good players there. McDowell's a young guy I like a lot. The receivers, we talked about earlier in the year, there's really just Little John there. But now Jeffries is back out there. He's playing well. Medley had a big game last week for them. Drew Medley had a huge game. I love that defense, though. Nathan Johnson, one of the best linemen in the state. Brayshawn Littlejohn, the Mizzou commit, is a stud. They held Livingston to under, I think, like 10 yards last week for Burns. Like, they shut down that run game. And Nathan Johnson had a huge game, too. He had a couple big sacks on Shaw. Him and Littlejohn just, really hit Shaw hard a lot. And to win this game, they're going to do the same thing. Like, they're going to have to hit Appler. They've got to stop the running attack of Dutch Fork. If we know something about Tom Knotts, it's that if the running game's working, they're going to keep doing that. He doesn't care about throwing the ball. He wants to win the game and score points. So that's going to be a tough one to see how that goes down. Gaffney at home is special. I mean, it's hard to put into words how much that matters. Like, it's not just home field. It's another level from that, playing at the reservation. I mean, this is going to be 10,000 plus, crowd there. It's going to be wild. This is a game that you'd almost rather see it in the state title game than at the upper state. But you do get that home field advantage here. You don't get that, neutral site. I tell you what worries me about Gaffney, and you mentioned it earlier in the year. You saw them play special teams. Had a couple kind of weird plays. Even last week, give a big return to Armani Weaver for a touchdown against Dutch Fork. In a game that's, of this level, this magnitude, you can't have any mistakes at that part of, on that part of the game there. It's hard not to go Dutch Fork, honestly, in this game. But I don't know, man. It's just hard to pick against Gaffney, too.
Yeah, it's – and you look at this game, you go, okay, what has Dutch Fork done really, really well as of late, running the football?
Mm-hmm.
What is Gaffney really, really confident, really feel good about on their team?
Yeah.
Their defense up front, stopping the run. And that's going to be, I think, the pivotal part of this game. Appler's not going to be the best quarterback that Gaffney has seen this year. Okay? They have faced some really good quarterbacks.
Yes.
That's not going to – they face a good one in practice every day.
Yeah.
Appler's not going to be – Appler might be the guy that has to win the game, but that's what Gaffney wants.
Yeah.
Can you neutralize Jarvis Green and make him just keep him under 150 yards? Make it to where Dutch Fork has to throw the ball to win the game. If they can do that, they've got a very, very good chance at winning the ball game, because I like the big playability offensively for Gaffney. Showed Jeffries, amazing Littlejohn, to hit some big ones throughout that game in the passing game. Whereas Dutch Fork, I don't know. I think that defense, if they're forcing Appler to throw the ball more than Dutch Fork wants to, that's going to bode really, really well for the Indians. That defense you saw about Dutch Fork, Perry, boy, that guy's a monster.
Yes.
He is a monster on that side of the field. He's all over the place. That's going to be the big question. Can they neutralize Jarvis Green? I don't know that they're going to be able to do it enough to win this game. But if they can, if Gaffney is able to do that, look out, Dutch Fork. You could. And what would be crazy? When's the last time? I don't know the number of stat on this. When's the last time Dutch Fork has lost to the same opponent back to back? Let's say
maybe not. Probably
ignore
not.
back to back years. Back to back
before they got good for sure. Yeah,
You know?
that'd have been several years back. You look at Dutch Fork. The one game they lost, that St. Francis team obviously is just a monster, but they couldn't run the ball, and they lost that game because they could not run the ball. But even earlier in the year, that's what they wanted to do. With Appler was out, against that Spartanburg team, Green I think ran for 300 plus. Like that's what they want to do is run the football. Gaffney has to stop the run. That's their first and key point there in my opinion. But that will be a huge game at the reservation. Going to be a lot of fun in the 5A Upper State Final there. A couple comments we've got. Chris says, "What's up, Chris? Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you being in here." Let's see. Cal says, "Where's the Tennessee hoodie at?"
Oh man, I lost it.
Love it.
I accidentally put it on the other day before I was going out of the house, and I looked down. I was like, "Oh, there ain't no way I'm going out and ball with this thing on."
Kenneth said, "What games you guys going to?" Not sure. With the Thanksgiving holiday, we're traveling around. I think Drell's going to be at Dutch Fork Gaffney. Not sure where John and I are going to be yet. We'll see how that goes.
I'm probably going to go to the Dillon game if weather permits. I'll be in that part of the state. I haven't been to Dillon yet this year. Haven't been between the white walls. But that's where I'm leaning as of right now.
Let's see. We got a comment here. Where did I go? I lost my spot here. Patrick says Jarvis Green versus Nate and Bray. Just saying. Yeah, that's the whole matchup. It comes down to the run game. Yeah, I agree. Chris says, no, y'all can't pick Gaffney to win. Man, I don't know what to do, honestly, man. Bradley says, I don't think anybody's gonna pick Gaffney this week. Bradley says not mad for anybody picking Dutch Fork. Kenneth says do 4A next. We're actually going to. Zach says, real question is what y'all opinion of the 2-point call on Powdersville Daniel? We'll get to that one here in a minute. Drill says Dutch Fork wins big. One more comment we had here. Shannon says Gaffney put Burns like 14 negative yards rushing there. Vincent putting in work. They certainly have. That was a huge part of that win last week. Chandler says 5A is weak this year. I'm not sure about that, Chandler. There's a lot of good teams in there, John. But let's move on to, like we said there, 4A, lower state final. South Florence at AC Flora.
4A.
Yeah, sorry.
Do the 5.
No, we'll go back. Yeah. 4A, South Florence at AC Flora. We've got the Bruins at 13-0. The Falcons at 13-0. Two teams have been rolling all year long. South Florence, big win, 52-21 over James Island last week, averaging 47 on offense, 13 on defense. AC Flora beat West Florence 50-19 last week, averaging 46 on offense, 20 on defense. That South Florence win, that James Island team had given up like 113, 115 points all year. They had that in the first half. South Florence
insane.
Sellers threw for 5, ran for 1 all in the first half. Just nuts there what he's able to do. Love Shallow at the running back spot, Singletary out wide, Jaden Sellers out wide. Big fan of White and those guys on defense there. They're fast, they're physical, they fly around. Looking at AC Flora, Markel Townsend, I feel like he's had 200 plus the last few weeks. He did it again last week against the West Florence. Correct, Carew Bates is, a very steady handler. He's not going to make any crazy plays, it feels like, but he's going to make the right play, make the right, they're not turn it over. He's playing great football for them. Obviously, Chris Lofton, a guy that you're very high on. He, and he's dedicated this year to his sister who died for the season. He's got that going for him. He's playing some really inspired ball for her there. The defense has been strong all year. I mean, holding West Florence to 19, that's really impressive to me, John.
Yeah.
Obviously scoring 50 is great on offense, but that's a good West Florence team. They held to 19 points last week.
Yeah, and just 6 in the second half, too.
Mm-hmm.
This game was 30-13 at the half, and then third quarter, AC Flora really put it away.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really, really fun game between some really good talent, offensive talent on that side of the ball for AC Flora, wanting to run the ball, and then South Florence, obviously the Sellers. They can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
They can do anything they want, it seems like, offensively. Aggressive defense.
Yeah.
We talk about the Bruins. We talk about how good that offense is, how good Sellers is. We saw that South Florence team, that defense go up against a very good West Florence team. That defense flies around.
Yeah.
They're very coached well. They're disciplined. They tackle well. They're where they're supposed to be. This is going to be an awesome ball game with a lot of talent. I'm hard pressed that the AC Flora is going to have what it takes to keep up with the Bruins for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't see South Florence putting up 40, 50 points in the first half in this game. Maybe in the game, not in the first half. This is going to be, they're going to have to play 3-4 quarters to win this ball game. I think South Florence can do that.
Yep.
I don't know that AC Flora can play as good of a football as they need to play 4 quarters, 48 straight minutes to win this game. But if anybody in Lower State 4A can do it, it's AC Flora. This bracket has gone. I think we both would have said, hey, at the beginning of the playoffs, we're probably going to see a West Florence, West-South rematch in the Lower State Championship. AC Flora took care of that big time last week. I like the way this bracket has worked out. I'm glad they're matching up with AC Flora because I think outside of West Florence, well, until last week, AC Flora is the best team in Lower State. They proved, hey, we are at least number 2 in Lower State last Friday. This is going to be a heck of a matchup. I think the Bruins, we got a couple more playmakers and they're a little bit, I think they are, I'll say, clearly better in this ball game.
Yeah, it's crazy to say, we've got a team here that, is a number 1 overall seed for it, which obviously that's the way the bracket shook out. It wasn't anything like, actually voted on it like that.
Right.
This AC 14, 13-0, and you feel like they're still kind of under the radar. I mean,
a little bit.
They didn't have the huge wins throughout the year. They beat a Greenwood team week 0. Greenwood lost their best running back, or that week they ended up not being as good as some former Greenwood teams we've seen. They had a very nice win against Ridgeview at the end of the year. That was probably their best win, honestly, that Ridgeview win there to close out the season. But they've just been steamrolling everybody. Playing at home is a big help for them. We've been to that stadium. It's not the best home field advantage, but it's still, playing at home is better than going on the road, always.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Coach Floyd doing a great job there in his first year. The one thing that I think gives them a chance, looking at South Florence, they play fast, they're physical, but I will say they might be a little bit undersized. And AC Flora has a very big offensive line, very physical offensive line, and I haven't seen South play a team like that yet that could really maybe try to pound them up front. So interesting to see how that matchup goes there.
Maybe, would you say, and then you can say it's a bit of a stretch, biggest team from a line perspective that they've played could be Oceanside.
Yeah, Monroe Freeland certainly could be.
And that's been their toughest game.
Certainly could be. A squad like that. So that's interesting to see. I think that I don't know if AC Flora can stop South Florence enough to win the game. I think that's the worry. I do think AC Flora will score some points.
I do too. I certainly do too.
But I think at the end you got to go with Sellers, and Mr. Football finalist. I think he finds enough ways to make enough plays to win a tight ball game there in Columbia.
Yeah, I think there's just too much. I think there's too much for AC Flora to have to try to shut down defensively. Whereas if South Florence is able to, and again, I don't think they're going to shut down AC Flora, but if they're able to slow down that run game a little bit and make, kind of like we talked about Gaffney and Dutch Fork, if they can make AC Flora throw the ball maybe a little bit more than they want to, and that can make things a little bit more difficult for the Falcons. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they're going to put up points. And hey, remember 2 weeks ago, I think it's 2 weeks ago, AC Flora, they whooped Hartsville.
Yeah.
That's a Hartsville team that was in that region and
gave
South Florence all they wanted. So, I mean, you got to keep that in mind, too. I think I could see this being a 40-30 kind of ball game, 50-40 kind of ball game. I like to see a track meet. I think we're going to see those athletes really shine on the offensive side of the ball. But I'm with you. I think there's just a hair too much more that AC Florida's got to account for than South Florence does in this one.
Yeah, a couple comments. Kenneth says, let's go South Florence. Shannon says, I think South Florence got it. Chandler says Greenville and South Florence are 2 of the top 3 teams in the state, and they're both 4A. Interesting take there. I don't know if I agree with that, Chandler. They are good football teams for sure.
Right there.
Kenneth says it's going to be a higher scoring game. Dressler's 40s to pound the football, starting the tempo of time and win possession. Exactly right. Yeah, I think that's their one chance to kind of lean on South Florence a little bit there, especially late in the game. Zach says CFP top 4 stays the same. LSU's up to 5 and 6.
Okay.
Jeffrey says Oceanside was bigger. With Freeland, they got some other big linemen too. So that is a big squad there. Chandler says Oceanside too good to be playing 2A. Yeah, they got a lot of talent, man. They're pretty solid, no doubt about it. But John, let's look now at our third Kona game of the week, our 3A Kona game of the week, the one that you might be at here. Down between the white walls, John, we got Beaufort traveling to Dillon. Beaufort 10-2 on the year. Dillon 13-0. Beaufort a 10-point win over Gilbert last week, 31-21. A game they could have lost, a very tight ball game there. Dillon a nice 31-14 win over Camden, a game they were down 14-10, but scored the last 21 points there. Can the Eagles go on the road and beat the Wildcats between the white walls?
I tell you what, on paper, I've been more impressed with Beaufort in this playoff run than I have been Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
Beaufort's had a tough road. We're talking about the defending 4A lower state change, getting knocked down to 3A because of enrollment, of course. Nothing against them. But I've been very impressed with Beaufort.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 weeks and any other 2 weeks of the entire season, they played a Crestwood team that is really, really good, and I picked Crestwood to upset them. I stand by that pick because it was a whale of a ball game.
A heck of a chance.
Yeah, Beaufort pulls that one out 45-42. A team that they pride themselves on how good they play defense. They won that game offensively.
Mm-hmm.
They had to score points, and they scored enough. And then last week playing a Gilbert team that me, you, and Jarrell have been very high on all year.
I picked Gilbert to win.
Yeah, I think I picked Gilbert to win as well. Thought Gilbert would win that ball game. They win by 10. Beaufort, his answer to the bell, they've played some really, really good competition here the last 2 weeks in the playoffs. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
You're playing the best of the best. You're playing the hottest teams around. Dillon has been hot from the time that we kicked off the season.
Yeah.
They have been a team that has gone from just going pedal to the metal in the second half on opponents to just flat out finishing ball games.
Yeah.
And they did that at Zimp Stadium last week against a Camden team that's been very good. A rematch of the lower state championship from last year, that Dillon-Camden game that Camden won.
Mm-hmm.
But Dillon is just got that X factor. You talk about that could be the difference in the Gaffney Dutch Fork game playing at the reservation. It is a very similar type of home field advantage with Dillon playing between the white walls. You got the fireworks across the street. You got a packed house. It's the kind of atmosphere that when you go there, you go, boy, this is high school football.
Yeah.
This is how high school football ought to be. This is excellent. Great environment. Beaufort is in for a treat for the folks that come up for that game. That's gonna be a fun environment. I just don't see Dillon's just winning ball games. I'm not gonna say that they're way more talented than Beaufort. I don't know that they are. I think you could argue Casey Fields is the most talented person on the field Friday night in this ball game. That's going to be the big key for me. Dillon's going to do what they do. They're going to run the ball. Mm-hmm. They're going to score some points. They're going to play tenacious defense. Can they keep Casey Fields somewhat contained? If he goes out and has a big game and just goes wild, could be some long-standing records falling in Dillon County Friday night. But I think this is going to be a really close ball game. I wouldn't be surprised if Beaufort's leading this game going into the second half, maybe even going into the fourth quarter. I think Dillon is a little bit better, and they got the home field environment too going their way. I like the Nasty Cats in this one.
Yeah, Beaufort, they won by 10, but it was a game they could have lost. They were trailing late, get a big kickoff return for a touchdown by Colton Ferris. He gets a pick after that, and Casey Fields gets a touchdown run to kind of get it up by 10 there. But that was a game they easily could have lost last week to Gilbert. I will say they are very solid, very well coached. Coach Libran does a great job there. I love the D line with even Smalls and a couple other guys they got there. They're really, really tough on that side of the ball. But Dillon, man, they are special. Chris McCullum, 3 touchdowns last week. Ty Martin, because they're kind of a thunder lightning combo there with those two. Josiah Oxendine, the quarterback, is a freshman. Doesn't throw it a lot, but he can run pretty well too. The defense is always nasty. That's what Dillon's kind of known for, I feel like. Really. The offensive line with Thompson, those guys are super solid. Dillon's kind of one-dimensional, but they're very good at what they do. They're going to run it. They're going to run it, and they're going to run it some more. Yeah, they are very solid. On Beaufort, though, I do like Casey Fields a lot. I think he didn't play running back until probably game 4 or 5, maybe in game 6. Still ran for like 1,800 yards this year. He's had a great season for them.
He's been our player of the week at least once.
He has. He has been on there all year. He's done a really good job. But this Dillon team, I think they're a little bit ahead of schedule. I don't think folks thought they would be quite this far this year, but they're playing with confidence. They don't expect to lose.
With a 9th grade quarterback.
Yeah. They don't expect to lose.
That doesn't make sense. You're not supposed to be winning with a 9th grade quarterback at the helm.
And then you mentioned the White Walls, John. Crazy stat here. Have not lost at home in the playoffs since 2011 to Timberland. That's 11 years ago, John. That is unbelievable to think about. And it's not like they're a team that hasn't been making the playoffs, haven't been playing home games. Well, they played a lot of home games, John.
And they played some. We talked about Gaffney, how they haven't had a big home game in X number of years. Dillon has played some tough teams in the
Yeah.
playoffs. They haven't had that issue. They played some big time competition.
Yeah, so I'm going to lean Dillon here. I think they win this game. I think they're too physical up front. I think they win this ball game and make it to the state championship.
I think so too, and I think it's going to come down to the wire though. I think it's going to be a very close, very entertaining, fun ball game.
Should be a fun one for sure. Couple comments here. We've got Bradley says, you just staying for talking to the other guy there. Jeffrey says Dillon by a lot, into the road for Beaufort. Dillon's too fast for Beaufort. Shannon says Gaffney Stadium is the same too. I love the vibe. Yeah, the reservation is a great spot too, and two of the best stadiums in the state, the reservation, and then over in the White Walls there at Dillon. Zach says, I don't know who that running back for Dillon is. I think he's number 5. The dude's like a grown 30-year-old man. Yeah, Chris McCollum. He's a load. He is a load to bring down for sure for that Dillon ball club there and Coach Roller. John, let's look now at our next Kona game of the week. A 2A matchup, a really, really fun matchup. And that's Saluda traveling to Abbeville. Both teams sitting at 11-2, John. You know, these two teams have been two of the powers in 2A the last, 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've matched up in the playoffs a couple times. I know Saluda beat them last year in the playoffs 49-34. In 2019, when Saluda won state, they went on the road to Hyatt Stadium and won that ball game 32-28. This is a heck of a matchup between the Tigers and the Panthers here.
This is big time. Saluda, they hit that 2-game bump on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, they were number 1 in the media poll all year up until that Strom Thurmond game. Yep. They have proved that they certainly are deserving of being in a state champion if they can get past this game and go into next week. But Abbeville, I am in love with what they got across the entire team. They're healthy as well. We saw them when they weren't 100%, and they were still very good. They knocked off, or nearly knocked off, a Powdersville team that's having a magical, historic season for that program, a 3A program.
Yeah.
That was an incredible game. Abbeville at home, at Hyatt Stadium. I know Saluda's done it, but I look at these two teams, and the best unit on the football field in this game is the Saluda defensive line. And to me, it's not super close. However, I look at the teams all put together. I think Abbeville is the better all-around team. I love the quarterback play is excellent. They're both well coached. Abbeville's not giving up anything on that side of the ledger. They play good defense. They're athletic. They're smart. You got the home crowd behind you. Saluda is awesome on that defense.
Yeah.
Especially on that defensive line. Mathis toting the ball. It is probably the best player on the field in this ball game.
Yeah.
It's the most electric for sure. I like the 22 guys that are on the field, or 11 at each time. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys are playing both ways from 2A. But I like that whole group on the field for Abbeville just a little bit more than Saluda. But gosh, if you look at Saluda, I thought they were going to beat Strom Thurmond. I thought they would get revenge. I think they were on blanket 28.
Yeah, beat them 28-0. Tyler Mathis scored big touchdown runs there, and they just, they didn't make the mistakes the first time. Not really the turnovers they had, not the penalties. They played really good football there in that win. Averaging 30 on offense, 10 on defense there. I think their big change came after that Strom Thurmond game, John. They kind of made the change at quarterback, went to Drew Arant, started getting Mathis the ball more at the running back spot, and it's really when they kind of took off, it feels like. Played great since then. With that big D lineman, I love those guys. They're so athletic, so physical up front there.
Quick, too. They're quick, aggressive.
Very good, very good. Abbeville beat Fairfield Central 45-14, averaged 45 on offense, 14 on defense for the year. Zay Rayford at quarterback, Antonio Harrison at running back, Javario Tinch, Patterson, Ty Cade. So many weapons there. I will say something about Abbeville, and it's not their fault, it's just the way the bracket laid out. They haven't had to play the type of competition Saluda has to get to this point.
And it hasn't been close.
Yeah, Saluda's
was the best team they played on their side of the bracket, and that would be, gosh, I don't know. I don't think they're better than Strom.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're better than Gray either.
Yeah.
When Saluda had to go through both of them.
Saluda's had 2 really good wins. Abbeville's kind of cruised. It's not their fault. They just haven't had to play that competition. My worry for Saluda, and it's not necessarily even like an athletic thing, it's just that game last week meant so much. Playing a team that had already beaten you once, you're going on the road to their place, playing your former coach, Coach Webb there.
Yeah.
You almost worry if that was almost the big game. If that was the Super Bowl kind of lesson for them, if they got too hyped up, if they can get back up 2 weeks in a row. Because this Abbeville team, you got to be full throttle to beat these guys.
Yeah, and I think they will.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will. You know, the reaction from, and I say that because at that game in Saluda where Strom won 6-3, you know, in my mind, and this is me being oblivious, ignorant, however you want to call it. You know, I'm going, hey, yeah, this stinks. You never like to lose at home. It's a regular season game.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can still win the region. And, you know, region, whatever. You're too good to be worrying about whether you're region champs or not. You're better than that. You got a chance to win Lower State, go to the weekend champions, win the state championship. The region doesn't matter if you do all that. But seeing how that coaching staff reacted, how those players reacted, and that how much it meant to them, that's a good thing to me, because that says, boy, they're taking every game serious, that they are worried about the details. They're going to be focused. They're going to be locked in. I don't see them coming out. And I get what you're saying, because that would make sense too. Go,
yeah.
Oh, well, you put so much focus. Can you come up 2 weeks in a row? I think they can. I think they can, you know, understand, hey, we got the revenge. But a week is a long time too.
Yeah.
And this is not, you know, Sadie Hawkins' School of Dance that they're playing. This is Big A.
Yeah.
You know, that everybody knows Abbeville. They certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
Going into Heights Stadium, if you've got any kind of, hey, I don't have the juice, once you step on the field Friday night, you'll get it.
Yeah.
I think they'll be ready to go. And, you know, it wasn't a nail-biter either, which helps.
Yeah.
You know, that game was in hand in the second half. It's going to be a tremendous ball game.
Yeah, I can't wait for this. I'm leaning Abbeville here, John. Could go either way. I mean, any game at this point could go either way. These all teams are so good. I like Abbeville at home a little bit. I like Harrison being back, ready for being back. I think those guys win us, what should be a heck of a ball game down in Upper State 2A. Zach says 2A game on speed all over the field, no doubt about it. Drill says Saluda stays hot and wins at height.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Challenge is, what does Saluda do to get past Strom after they match up earlier? Yeah, they just didn't turn the ball over this time. I mean, they had some key stops on Strom inside the 10, and they were able to, you know, turn around and convert their chances inside the 10 was the big one there.
Yeah, there were a lot of turnovers in that first game. And like you mentioned, Kevin, I think making the change at quarterback for Saluda, I think was a big, big change for them. Not only making that change at quarterback, but also getting the ball in Mathis' hands more.
Exactly right.
He's the best athlete on that team offensively. Anyways, you got to get him the ball as much as you can within, you know, the realm of, you know, keeping him fresh, keeping him healthy, keeping him ready to go, you know, down the road, you know, throughout the whole ball game. But that change for Saluda, I think, was the big change, and that's a huge part of, I think, why you saw them lose 6-3 early in the year and then win 28-0 last year.
Yeah, Zach makes a comment, says Saluda had the ball inside the 10, or sorry, Strom had the ball inside the 10 4 times, didn't get any points from that.
There you go.
That's a huge
score
stop there.
Touchdowns at 28-28.
No, Akeem says, Sal, Saluda, their boys are rolling, John. Let's take a look now at our fifth and final Kona game of the week here. A 1A matchup. My sleeper in 1A. These are probably my two favorite 1A teams, in the lower state especially. That's Cross at Johnsonville. You know, Cross 11-2, Johnsonville undefeated on the year 12-0. Cross defeated Estill 34-16 last week. A game that was a little bit close. It was 21-16 late. 2 late touchdowns for Carmelo Montgomery. Got to pull it away in that one. Johnsonville blanked Lamar 14-0, a pick 6 from Quandrell Woodbury, and then a big touchdown by DeQuan Burrows was the scoring in that ball game. This game is going to be really fun, I feel like. Two teams that want to run the ball a lot, really fun offenses, really well-coached teams. The Trojans and the Flashes, John, who you got?
I tell you what, I haven't really believed in Cross all year. I believe in them
I've
now.
been telling you, John.
I know, and I've been hard-headed. I haven't listened. I got high on Estill after that Bamberg win earlier this year, and they've been awesome. I thought they were going to win last week.
Mm-hmm.
Cross, they pulled away.
Santori Jones and Carmelo Montgomery, they're two special players. I mean, obviously playing both ways at that level, of course. They're great on both sides of the ball, but those guys get it done.
And they've been playing really good defense. You know, they shut out Eau Claire or East Clarendon, in round 1. They gave up 8 to Lakeview. Round 2, a game that I thought Lakeview was going to win.
Lakeview team that was playing really good football.
And then gave up 16 last week. Lamar on the other end, boy, they've been playing even better defense.
Johnsonville, you mean?
Or Johnsonville.
Yeah.
Shut out Lamar last week. Gave up only 7 to Bamberg the week before,
Mm-hmm.
and just 14 to Military Magnet in the first round. Boy, and playing Lamar's gonna be tough. This is another game where you look at that home field atmosphere, that home field crowd. You go, ooh, that's gonna be a big advantage. I want to Rob across. I feel like, and maybe it's just me personally, I haven't given them the respect that they deserve this year, but I picked against them 2 weeks in a row, and they have been pressed 2 weeks in a row. Estill was a team that nobody talked about till halfway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
Estill was my team that I thought was going to win Wilbur State.
Yeah.
When the playoffs started. And here's Cross. So I'm a believer, fully invested in him. As you said, Santori's been having a great season. He is a great player for them. I'm going to go.
Averaging 32 on offense, 8 on defense. Johnsonville averaging 33 on offense, 12 on defense. This is a fun game, man. Playing in Johnsonville, it's a fun atmosphere. The Flashes do a great job there. The quarterback Malik Shippey is a guy I like as a junior. Is going to, do some big things for them next year. He always does big things right now, obviously, too. Daquan Burrows, the all-star selection, had a $169 and a touchdown last week. Coach Cribb does a great job there. This Johnsonville team, while it's not maybe like the sexiest of wins a lot of these times, they had some games earlier in the season where they just won by a point, or games we thought they should blow out. But they keep winning. They find a way to win. Whether it's a turnover, like a big pick six like last week, whether it's a big run from Burrows, or whatever it is, they keep finding ways to get it done. I'm rolling Johnsonville at home with Daquan Burrows. Big fan of that kid. I think they win this game. I think this could be a 21-20 type ball game, like super, super close here, I think, in this 1A Lower State game.
Yeah, I think this could be one, too, where whoever scores 20, if someone scores 20, they win the ball game.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really fun here in this one. A couple comments here. We've got Chandler saying Daquan Burrows, best player in 1A. He's up there, man. He's a really good one. Deshaun Reeder, obviously, Christchurch is a really good one. There's a lot of great players, but he is certainly up there, no doubt about it. Nikki says, yay for going to Dillon. Yeah, John will be between the white walls there on Friday, we think. Tanisha says, big cross, not the little one. Yeah, those boys are playing some good ball, no doubt about it, John. Before we look into our next 5A game, a quick shout out to our friends at Security Advantage Federal Credit Union. Whatever your personal journey, they're there to offer you smart financial solutions. Join today at securityadvantagessu.com. Securityadvantagessu.com. Win to make it drive like member NCUA. The George Agency, serving the needs of South Carolina for over 35 years. Located in Mullen, South Carolina, Merle's Inlet, South Carolina. They've also got offices all across the state. They can help you out whether you're in Aiken, Rock Hill, Greenville, wherever. If you need insurance, maybe your company doesn't offer insurance to you, maybe you're a seasonal worker, whatever it is, thegeorgeagency.net. Check those guys out. Grab their learners from the crew. Get in touch with those guys before open enrollment ends here pretty soon. Our games week from Kona. They offer a synergistic approach for spine, skeletal system, nervous system, and supporting structure and total quality care for your optimal health. 3 locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville at Kona.care. That's Kona.care. And then stock up, stock down from Founders Federal Credit Union. Get your head in the game at Founders Federal Credit Union. See our Founders and elevate your financial game. Train your financial skills at our wide array of financial tools and services. Visit relaxedfounders.com today to see if you qualify for membership. Relax at Founders Federal Credit Union. And then Hanna Engineering, our pick'em sponsor as well, John. So to recap now, our games of the week from Kona. We had in 5A, Dutch Fork at Gaffney. 4A, South Florence at AC Flora. 3A, Beaufort at Dillon. 2A, Saluda at Abbeville. And 1A, Cross at Johnsonville. Let's take a look now, John. Let's start back over up at 5A. A huge one here in the Low Country. Fort Dorchester hosting Summerville. A game that we saw a few weeks back. Fort Dorchester won that one by a score of 38-21. But it was kind of close. This game was 10-7 at half, 17-7 in the third quarter. But Fort D, man, they are playing great football. I mean, they've been my 5A lower state favorite here, almost all year long, honestly, especially now that Zoltan Osborne's back. Davian Brown doing a great job running the ball there for those guys. They are just physical and just tough up front. They took down a really good Carolina Forest team last week, beat them handily, and that wasn't even really close, but 30, 39, 21, something like that. Beat them handily. You think about Fort Dorchester, Zoltan Osborne, aired out, throw it all in place, whatever. They threw 5 passes last week. Just didn't have to. They ran it all over Carolina Forest. They're playing great football. Summerville, on the other hand, they got some revenge last week. Another rematch last week. They beat Sumter 7-0. The one run on a Wildcat touchdown from Yannick Smith. I don't know if they have enough offense to beat Fort Dorchester.
I don't know that they do either, but that defensive performance they put on last week was very impressive.
That wasn't Sumter hasn't been great all year on offense, but they haven't been shut out except for Oceanside.
Right. And the fact that Summerville, they're not the best team offensively either.
Mm-hmm.
And you go into that game, you go, I hope they went in that game and say, hey, maybe we just have to make one play.
Yeah.
You know, they go out, they match the intensity, they match the defensive firepower that the Gamecocks had. Didn't expect them to win that game. Didn't expect them to win the week before when they beat up on Lexington, Lexington team that we really like.
And that is one thing I'm saying, you know, with that offensive line of Fort D, I mean, they shut down Lexington, Summerville did. So, I mean, I think Fort Dorchester is going to have to throw the ball. I just think that Osborne is good enough to do it.
I certainly do too. In the game, being at Fort Dorchester helps. I know it's not a long trip for Summerville. You know, they're not very far away. I want to pick Summerville really bad in this game because the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks. Fort Dorchester has had a slightly easier road on their side of the bracket. I feel like it makes sense for Summerville to win this game.
Yeah,
just the way that they've been playing.
Coach Rafferty doing a great job.
Yeah, they have certainly turned the corner this year. I know that this is a bit of an upset. I'm going to go Summerville, though.
Wow.
I think they've just got – the way that defense is playing is really, really incredible to give up. You know, and I know we tell you, hey, Summerville don't have the best offense. But to go Lexington – well, heck, throw the first round in there, too, because they blanked Conway in the first round.
Yeah.
They've got 2 out of their 3 games have been shutouts.
Yep. And
the other one against Lexington, they gave up 13. That defense is playing as good as anybody, even Dutch Fort. They're playing as good as anybody in 5A right now. I think they might be the best unit on the football field Friday.
Yeah, that defense is good. And offensively, that is where they're kind of limited. Now, obviously, the Smith kid playing receiver, playing some Wildcats, a really dynamic athlete. You know, Spellman there at running back. They've been kind of a little bit banged up the last couple of weeks. You know, McMurray at quarterback, solid. They just haven't been able to really put it together, and that will worry me. I think they will have a good game plan for Fort D. I just don't know if they can score enough to beat them. You know, John, I think we've both been huge fans of Dalton Osborne since we've, seen him play a couple years back. He's been a mainstay in our Players of the Week, it feels like the last several years. I like those guys a lot. I think Coach LaPrade wants a rematch with Fort D for a chance to play Gaffney for state. Had some tough words last year after that Fort D or after that Dutch Fork loss about the best teams and whatnot. That game they thought they could have won easily.
Yeah,
I think he's looking for some revenge. I think they beat Summerville this week. I think they beat them by 10, 14 points.
Okay.
I like what Fort D's doing, running and throwing. And that defense, holding Carolina Forest to 21 is very impressive. They got after them up front. Had a lot of sack, and they sacked them 3 or 4 times in the first half. A team that had been scoring 40, 50 plus the last few weeks, it felt like. That was a great defensive performance holding Scott Saylor and Coach Morris there to that 21 number. So I like Fort Dorchester to win, but it should be a fun game down there in the Low Country on Friday night.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. That's going to be a cool storyline, whoever wins this game, because if Fort Dorchester wins this game, whether they play Gaffney or Dutch Fort, there's going to be some juice on that Fort D sideline going into either of that. Either of those opponents. And then if Summerville wins, could you imagine a Gaffney Summerville state
Talk about
championship?
maybe the 2 most historic programs in the state right there.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Either way, in for a treat. I think we're going to, the more you're talking me out of Summerville, man. 'Cause now I think about how good that Fort Dorchester offense is, and holding Carolina Forest 21. I don't know if Summerville was 420 on Fort D. I don't know. I could see this being a very low scoring game. I'm still gonna stick with Summerville. I'm gonna stick with my upset pick. I know it's an upset pick, but I'll stick with that. But Fort D is certainly the favorite. In going into this ball.
I agree. We need Jeffrey to hop back in here. I know he's a Fort D guy. Let's get his thoughts on it. Jamonte says Dillon's going to have to hit Mr. Fields early and often to win, or hard and often, excuse me. Yeah, no doubt about that. Jarrell says, John, pick Summerville. I don't know if that's sarcastic or not. I don't know there.
Yeah, Jarrell, he's
you never know with him. Looking now at our next 4A matchup, the Upper State 4A final, John. Greenville hosting Northwestern. Funny enough, we saw this game last year in a non-region, classification game because Northwestern was 5A. A Northwestern team that was really good. They won that game pretty handily last year. This is a fun game to me. Greenville has kind of proven your role last 2. I thought there was a good chance they could lose to either Catawba Ridge or South Point. They didn't. They're still around. They beat Catawba Ridge 42-27 last week. Catawba Ridge had it within a score a couple times, couldn't kind of overcome that hump there. Northwestern just rolling right now, 59-21 over Westside. That offense is clicking on all cylinders. And we talk about the offense with Polk and Richard and Caldwell and those guys. But that defense, John, this is the West Side team we've seen play. They could score 35, 40 plus on everybody, it felt like.
Yeah.
Holding to 21, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Northwestern has been the real deal all season. They played good football all year. Love Turbo Richard, toting the rock for them. He's a load to deal with. Greenville, familiar with him.
Yep.
He was in that game last year, of course, when they played. I just really like Greenville. For me, once they got into region play, they took their lumps out of region at the beginning of the year, playing some really stiff competition. And I don't think they played their best either. They found out where they wanted to go with the quarterback position halfway through the year. Drummond's been very, very good. He's been a very just a calming presence back there in the pocket. He's stepped into Prometheus Franklin's shoes extremely well. That was a tough guy to follow up. He's done a great job there. I like Greenville in this game. I like the talent they've got offensively, the plays that they're making on defense. They're not shutting people out, but they're making plays when they have to do it.
Evans had another pick last week for them when they had to have it.
And they're winning. They're doing what you need to do to win a championship. The talent's there. When you get to this point of the season, nobody gets here without talent. The talent is there for them, and I think they're the more talented team in this ball game. They're getting to play at home. It's not necessarily a major environment that Northwestern's not going to used to, but it's the comfortability aspect. You get to be at home. You don't have to go on the road. And everything's familiar.
Especially going to District 3 Stadium. That's why it's better to play at home, even though the home field's not really there. Better than going over there, for sure.
Absolutely, to avoid that. I just like Greenville. The only thing that scares me about the Red Raiders is the running back. Yeah. That running back issue. You're down to your third string running back. But they've done a good job. They're still two-dimensional.
Yeah.
They're making teams still have to play for the run. They're running the ball. They're mixing it in well. They're not busting out huge runs. That's okay. They follow the game plan. They're still running the ball. They're still staying true to that. I think Greenville pulls this out. I just think that they're playing that kind of football. Northwestern's very good. This is now 3 York County opponents in a row that the Red Raiders are going to face. That's a testament how good football is in York County. And this is the best one of the 3, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But I like their odds here. Especially, and I thought that Catawba Ridge game could be a real problem. They did a good job in that game.
They did.
They really took control late in that ball game, put themselves comfortably winning position in that ball game.
And we mentioned Greenville's running backs being out. They're doing a good job of doing some things to kind of combat that. The Jones kid has played well. And they had a guy named Mosley had a couple of nice runs last week. And they gave Mazio Bennett the ball some of the Wildcat spots. He has some nice runs. Drummond's moving it well. And on top of it, they're kind of utilizing the quick screen game because the receivers is kind of an extension of the run game, really. So they're doing some things to kind of keep them balanced there. Love Brown and Bennett out wide, 2 dynamic playmakers. We know what they can do with those guys. Defensively, Edmondson's a stud. He's a really good player. I like Knauber as well.
I like Schuler.
Schuler's a heck of a player. Luke Schuler, yeah.
You may mention his name 4 or 5 times in a game, but it's like, well, there's a huge play. The guy, he made some huge plays in the West Side game. Made some huge plays in the South Point game we were at.
He's playing great. Northwestern going to have their hands full, no doubt about it. Love Polt, Richard Caldwell, those guys. Defensively, Jackson, Massey, Perry Robinson, all playing great on that side of the ball. It's hard for me to pick against Northwestern. I feel like they're so good. They're so good right now. Playing great football. Their one loss to that Gaffney team is still playing football in 5A right now. They are a heck of a ball team. I'm going to go Northwestern on the road here. I think it comes down to, surprisingly, the quarterback play. Finley Polk. If he turns it over, they're going to lose. If they don't turn it over, I like the Trojans to win this one.
Okay. And I would not be surprised if Northwestern wins this game, but I like the quarterback play on that other side of the ball.
Yeah, Drummond's a stud.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great game.
No doubt about it. Richard and Caldwell, those guys can really get it done too. So it should be a great match over there at Spring Stadium Friday night. Looking down now, John, at 3A, the Upper State 3A Championship. We've got Clinton, the Red Devils, heading over to Powdersville to take on the Patriots. Clinton, big winners in the rematch. A couple comments here before we get to it. Got to get to that. Sorry. Brad is going to Northwestern. Jarrell said, big fan of Thomas Edmondson. The defense, love both the offenses. Emily says, please don't rain Friday. Yes, we were praying for no rain Friday. That's scary. I hope it doesn't happen. That does worry me. And then Zach says, name me one team that has 3 1,000-yard rushers in one season. He knows he can name us one. Yeah. So look at that 3 Upper State game, John. Clinton traveling to Powdersville. Clinton, an undefeated season so far. Powdersville, they were 1 loss at home to 5A Hillcrest, very good football team there. Clinton got some, not really revenge because they beat Chapman already in the year. They beat them twice this year.
Yeah.
49-27 last week at home. Powdersville won probably the game of the week last week. 36-35 over Daniel on a 2-point conversion late there, John. This game is gonna have some great running backs, both sides of the ball. I mean, Bryson James, Jyshawn Copeland, Jane Robinson from Clinton, Thomas Williams from Powdersville. This is gonna be a really fun matchup.
Yeah, and it physically hurts to pick against the team in this ball game.
They're both so good. Yeah,
and how good that we knew both of these teams were going to be good coming into the season, and both of them have lived up to the hype. Both of them have checked every box you expect them to check up to this point. They have played great football. I love that Powdersville, everything that they do, that they're so dynamic offensively, throwing the football, running the football, the playmakers they've got, the attitude that they carry in the games, and that we're going to win no matter what attitude. And then you look at Clinton, how they run their offense a little bit different from everyone else, and just how they, they've got that air around them. Hey, they're Clinton, they're special, they're different. I love everything about this matchup, everything about both of these programs and teams and what they've done this year. But there's one of these teams has an accolade that the other one does not have. And it's not fair to the other one, but one of these teams knocked off Daniel last week. And that is high level. This is a Daniel team that has owned 3A lately. And they have taken the best shot that everyone has given them. Typically, they've run through Upper State.
Yeah.
It's been the state championship game that they faced either a very good Camden team. They faced the Dillon team, and they've just answered the call and kind of just demoralized opponents. Daniel fans going to go, hey, regular season not really that fun. We just kind of blow through everybody. Boy, Friday was a change of pace. That was impressive what Powdersville did, imposing their. I'm not imposing their will may not be the right way to say it, but just they controlled the tempo.
Yeah.
They controlled the tempo right from the get go. They got a couple turnovers that I think was uncharacteristic of Daniel. Powdersville, though, they turned the ball over, uncharacteristic of them. I hope that's cleaned up. I don't want to see Clinton get a little sloppy with the football. They typically are not. I hope Powdersville is not, hope they're not sloppy with it either. I hope we see a great ball game here. And again, you said earlier, with Saluda, can they get up to?
Yeah, that's a worry. Because that, Coach Muster kind of said after the game that, obviously they were telling us all week that it's just another game. It wasn't just another game. Powdersville knew that last week. That was Daniel, 2-time defending state champs. That was bigger than a regular game. I mean, it's hard to do that two weeks in a row.
And we were on the sidelines.
Yeah.
We know how big that game was to everyone on that side of the stadium, in the stands, on the sideline, on the field, and it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. Celebrate that, enjoy that. And Coach saying all the right things. You gotta say those things, and you gotta have that mentality going into the game, the week of the game. You gotta do the same thing this week too. You got to make sure that you're laser focused and you're on all your details, dotting your I's, crossing your T's. And I think they will.
Yep.
Clinton will too.
Yeah.
Clinton will too. And it's going to be a fun matchup because the different style of offense that the Red Devils play. I find it hard to believe that Powdersville can have that magic for 2 weeks in a row. But that's just, maybe they're just that good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their season. Maybe this is, it's meant to be. And, someone asked earlier, and boy, we've seen comments all week about the 2-point play on it. Did he get in? Did he not get in? I'm glad I didn't have to make that call as a ref. My take on it was, hey, say it was third down. If you say you didn't get in, where are you spotting that football? I don't know. I don't know where you.
I'm gonna say he got in.
I think
watched
he
it a lot.
Too.
It's funny too. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on our Facebook page, our Twitter page. It's got thousands of views. Go check it out. There were some screenshots floating around. They had the football photoshopped out of it, so be careful if you see that. Some people are trying to make it a little bit look a little different than it really did. So,
don't do that.
Interesting to say there. But, Powdersville, we all love Thomas Williams. He's a stud. Everybody knows about him. The quarterback, Eli Hudgens, he's going to have to have a big game. Not only running, but he's got to hit the right passes. He made a great throw late to Drake Sloan last week. Threw the ball well. Kyle Rice out wide. Huggins running the ball is a great player for them. Defensively, they got to bring their lunch bill. I mean, that's going to be a tough task.
That's going to be the factor.
Yeah. Harrison Jeffrey's going to have a big game. Xavier Fowler's going to have a big game. Interesting to see what they're going to do with Thomas Williams. Usually plays that DB spot, but a team like Clinton that's not going to throw it a ton. I wonder how they're going to use him on defense, how they're going to utilize his speed and his talent there. You can see what Coach Muster and Coach Nimmer do with that. On the Clinton side, I mentioned the running backs already. The quarterback, Bryce Young, stepped in, mid-season, late season for the quarterback who tore his ACL. He's played great. Had to do a whole lot. Hit some nice passes last week. He may have to do something this week. This Powdersville team may force him to hit a big pass or two. Can he do it? We shall see. That defense, Hezekiah Kiner, great play on the D-line there. We know how fast and physical they fly around there on that side of the ball. Could be another game, especially if he makes a big play. The Red Devils have a knack for returning kicks for touchdowns this year. Powdersville has plenty of talent there, too. Maybe a team can break one of those and get a win with something like that. I don't know, but it's going to be a great atmosphere. I know that. Last Friday was great there in Powdersville. I expect Clinton to bring as many, if not more, people than what Daniel brought.
Well, if they bring more, I don't know where they're going to sit.
Yeah. Standing room only pretty early. Get there early if you're going to that game, Zach. No doubt about it. But should be a fun one. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to lean Powdersville at home because they're at home. But I am very worried about them having to play 2 big games in a row like this. That really scares me.
And having to switch gears a little bit, too, just from the contrasting style of Daniel. And I was a little surprised by Daniel. They didn't stretch the field as much as I thought they would. They threw it out in the flats a lot. They tested Powdersville speed defensively and a little bit of their discipline. And the Patriots were very impressive. They were flying around defense. At the regular season, if you say, hey, what's a weakness about Powdersville, you'd probably say their defense. And more specifically, probably the secondary.
Yep.
Those guys really flew around, did a great job against Daniel last Friday. I was very impressed. I think that unit as a whole has improved as the season has gone. But, as you said, Clinton's not going to throw the ball a ton.
No.
They don't want to throw the ball a ton. They're going to run it. They're going to hit you with a couple different guys. And they got a great scheme with that kind of veer-looking offense. And that's what scares me because I think if I just looked at this game and I didn't know about any other games during the season, I'd probably pick Clinton. Largely in part of that, the scheme just being different, being a little tougher to prepare for because you're not used to it. Anything you're not used to doing is tougher to do. Mm-hmm. That's anything, right? That's going to make this game very, very intriguing. But I'm with you. Powdersville at home, and they are, to me, they're just that good. They play big games. That Abbeville game was a close game. We talked about the game in Hillcrest was a close game. They've been in these kind of games before. Not having to go to Clinton is a big deal. That's a big deal. They had a great ride at home last week. I like Powdersville by a little bit in this game because it's at home. I think that's going to be the difference maker. But, man, it's going to be a great game. And I'm the one thing I'm not looking forward to this is who does lose. Because I love both of these fan bases. Love both of the playmakers on both of these teams. I wish they both could. I wish this could be the state championship game. But this is going to be a tremendous ball game.
I'll tell you, we got 2 of the better, not just running backs, but football players in the state in this game. With Bryson James, running back linebacker, and Thomas Williams, running back DB. Those guys are worth the price of admission alone. They're both special. It'll be a lot of fun to see those guys go at it Friday night. Comment. Drell says, answer the question, did Thomas Williams get in? We both say yes. We're going down that path. No doubt about it. But, John, let's look now at our lower state 2A game. A surprise matchup here for me. We've got Oceanside Collegiate heading up to Kershaw County to take on Andrew Jackson. I know you've been high on the Volunteers all year long, John, but you can't tell me you saw them blowing out Barnwell 41-14 last week.
I thought Barnwell was going to win that game. I thought Barnwell was going to win that game. If you had told me, hey, the Andrew Jackson Barnwell game is going to be 41-14, I go, gosh, I don't think Barnwell's going to be that bad.
Right.
But, there's some turnovers in that ball game that
Yep.
we didn't expect to happen, that AJ capitalized on. Hats off to the Vols for making it happen.
41 unanswered points after being down 7-0.
That is incredible. The problem is for Friday night is that they did that last Friday.
Yeah.
Boy, you would have loved to have saved some of that for this Friday.
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be a great environment up in Kershaw for this ball game. I wouldn't hate going to this one either.
That'd be a fun
I wouldn't hate
matchup.
going to this one. This is a really cool place to go see a game, but Oceanside they're a monster. They are a monster. AJ's had a tremendous season. Put this in the books as one of the best seasons for Andrew Jackson getting to the Wilbur State Championship. Even if they get rocked a little bit Friday, great season. Hold your heads high.
Yeah.
But Oceanside's a different animal. They're a different animal. And I don't see this game being super close.
You know, they demolished a good Woodland team, 59-18 last week. That's a game that people were coming in our preview show telling us that Woodland was going to win. Woodland was too tough for Oceanside. That game wasn't close from the get-go, John.
Yeah.
The Land Sharks looked really impressive. Andrew Jackson, great year. Coach Shigley doing a great job. We talk about Trey Thompson, a stud at running back. They're very physical, very fast. I mean, they're tough. I mean, they're going to test Oceanside, no doubt about it. But you got to lean Oceanside here. I mean, Hagedon is playing great football. The quarterback Reidenbach's playing great football. Vaughn Blue is back now. First game back last week. Runs for 100, receives 100 yards as well. Playing great football. Monroe Freeland up front. You know, Coach Wilkes is pushing all the right buttons, doing a great job for those guys. I think Oceanside wins this game on the road. But Andrew Jackson, man, there's something about those guys. It's not that we haven't liked them all year, but it's just hard to put them in the top 5 with whoever else we've had to put up there.
Yeah.
But, man, they certainly deserve to be there. They proved their place.
Well, and when we put together our final poll for the year, doggone bet they're going to be in my top 5.
Yeah.
I wanted to put them in the top 5 for a large part of the latter part of the season, but you're right. You know, there's so many good teams in 2A this year. 2A's been so much fun to follow. I hope we see a good game. I think Oceanside's just that good. But this would be a fun environment to see. I haven't seen Oceanside in person yet this year. I would. Again, we got to figure out a way to split ourselves.
I know.
And get more of these games. We got to raise some more money and get some sort of a cloning machine or something to do. But I would love to be at this environment Friday. Who knows? Maybe I will.
That should be a fun one for sure, John. Now, looking now at the Upper State 1A matchup. Christchurch hosting St. Joe's, another rematch. Christchurch won this game 60-14 the first time around, John. Woods Wyndham went 10 for 11 for 256 and 2 touchdowns. Deshaun Reeder went 18 for 203 and 4 touchdowns. St. Joe's is playing better. They've had two nice wins. Had the kind of the upset over Southside Christian a couple weeks ago on 2-point conversion late in over. People didn't see that coming. Blew out Wagner Sally. But I saw Christchurch firsthand last week. That win over Louisville was really impressive. I just don't know. I don't know if St. Joe's is playing that much better than they were when they matched the first time.
Yeah, and talk about St. Joe's in the first round. They played a Whitmire team that we think very highly of. Had a great season, and they just smashed them. 61-6 in the first round. St. Joe's is playing very, very good football right now. They set against that Southside loss. Southside Christian team that I think is the second best team in the Upper State.
Yeah.
Going into that game behind Christchurch, but Christchurch is too good. They're too good. I see this being a better game than what we saw in round 1 of Christchurch St. Joe's, but I don't know that St. Joe's can play a good enough game to beat Christchurch. Christchurch has got to have a bad game for them to win this one. Which is possible. Football bounces a weird way. It's an oblong ball, and no matter crazy things happen on the football field, but you can't go against Christchurch in this one.
They've got some athletes, man, and big kids at that. Deshaun Reeder is a grown man. Woods Wyndham is a big dude as well. B.J. Atkins out wide is a great player for them. Defensively, Joey Mikesell and Carson Shaw are playing great football. They got after Louisville. Ian Grissom had a great year for them throwing the ball. He didn't have a chance last Friday. Christchurch pressured him all night long. That defense is good. O-line is good. Running back's good. that's a really good football team. I think Christchurch wins this one probably by a few scores again.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's and you can, when you're overmatched, it's different.
Yeah.
You know, you look at, not that Ian Grissom or anybody at Louisville is not talented. They're talented. But when you get overmatched, you can't do anything. You know, you see it in all sports. You see it in baseball. You get a pitcher out there that, you know, is just overpowering guys. It doesn't matter how good of a hitter you are.
Yeah.
You're just getting overpowered. You got no chance. You know, obviously we see it in football. You see it in every sport. When you get a matchup where one team is that much better, you know, your talent is good and great, but if you physically cannot match up and you know, do the things you need to do, especially on the lines,
yeah,
boy, it makes it virtually impossible. And that, unfortunately, I think we might have that case again Friday night.
Yeah, should be a fun Greenville County, but I think we're both leaning Christchurch there. Drill says agreed. He thinks Thomas got in. Drill says John's out here eulogizing Andrew Jackson. And he says Hee-Haw and that defense at CC are going to be too much. As Carson Hee-Haw Shaw does a great job. I think he set the record for sacks, I think, last week for Christchurch, John. So that's all of our games. Let's take a look quick at our pick'em results from round 3. Another good week, especially for John Epps and Jeff M. Both coming down with 10 there. Tie for second, Dale B, Charlie L, Richard E, Lance L, Kane E, Tony 28, Cam R, Jack T, Zach W, and Johnny J all with 9. Then we had 16 folks tied with 8. Drill had 8. I had 7. These playoffs are kicking my butt. I think I've had 7 every week. I just can't get above that. But congrats to Jeff. Congrats to John getting a 10 spot there. Great job in round 3 from Hanna Engineering. Go join that pick'em. It's on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, on our website. Go hop in there. It's a lot of fun to do. We've got this week and next week left, so definitely get into our playoff pick'em. And now our overall leader for the playoffs, John, familiar face, Chris G, still leading the charge there at 29. Dale B alone in second at 26. David B, 22 at 25. Lance L, Zach W, Mark F, Coach T, Will K all at 24. And then tied for 10th, Corey R, Richard E, Johnny J all at 23. Jarrell leading the host pick'em here at 24. John, you and I at 21. Chris G, hats off, man. I guess he had a 10 and 11 and 8 this week. I mean, heck of a start to the playoffs for Chris.
Pretty good. Your bad week is getting 8.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Those have been a lot of fun for sure to do, John. So another quick shout out to our friends here at Security Advantage Federal Credit Union. Whatever your personal journey, Security Advantage is here to offer you smart financial solutions. SecurityAdvantageSU.com. Win a banking driver life member NCUA. Arcona Games of the Week. They offer a synergistic approach with a spine, skeletal system, nervous system, and supporting structures, and total quality care for optimal health. 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville. Arcona.care. That's Arcona.care. Our friends at the Georgia Agency, serving the Carolina for 40 years now. Open enrollment is here. If you don't have insurance through your company, give them a call. If you're a seasonal worker, a restaurant worker, whatever, GeorgiaAgency.net. Bradley Wanger can help you out there all across the state. Or if you're a small business owner, need group insurance, I can do that for you also. And then our stock up, stock down from Founders Federal Credit Union. Get your head in the game with Founders Federal Credit Union. COI Founders membership, it elevates your financial game. Training financial skills with our wider array of financial tools and services. Relax on Founders.com today. See if you call off membership. Relax with Founders Federal Credit Union. And Hanna Engineering brings us our pick'em each and every week. Couple comments here. We've got Tanisha says, John, why no faith in little schools cross taking it one game at a time? We go into Johnsonville 0-0. Maybe may the best team win.
I think Cross is going to win.
That should be a good one, Tanisha. Cross is playing great football. We love Montgomery and Jones there. Love what Johnsonville is doing too with Daquan Burrows and Malik Shipping, those guys. They are a great football team. Should be a great matchup between Coach Cribb's squad and the Trojans there.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I like Cross.
No doubt about it. There you go. This is you guys first time tuning in. We really appreciate that. Like us here on Facebook. Share it. Tell your friends. John and I go live every Tuesday about 7 o'clock for a preview show. We'll have a state championship preview show next Tuesday at 7. Definitely don't want to miss that. Follow us also on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin the Chains, MovinChains. We have different stuff on each platform. Definitely follow them all. And also, like I said last week, social media is kind of a weird place, especially Twitter right now. Don't know what's going to be happening with that, so definitely come follow us everywhere in case one platform decides to go away somehow. Definitely come tune into us everywhere. MovinChains.com is our website. MovinChains.com has all of our links, all of our graphics, our message board. Go talk some trash in the locker room. Definitely love to get you guys in there. Our Friday Night Spaces over on Twitter. We go live for a live scoreboard show about 10:30, 11 on Twitter every Friday night. Hop in there, talk about the football games, talk about the scores. been a lot of fun to do. Love to have you guys hop in and talk about the game that you were at as well. Some great interviews still on our pages there, on our YouTube page. Some good stuff coming up for the state championship here in a couple weeks, hopefully, as well. And then our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. This show will be on there as of tonight. Jarrell and I do a recap show on Sundays that goes out on Apple Podcasts, etc. Tune in for that every Sunday, a recap show. But lots of good stuff. John, any other words for people here before we wrap up for the night?
Yeah, one thing we didn't mention, and you, Jarrell, you guys may have mentioned this on Sunday. Other than 5A, no matter what happens Friday and next week, we will see, I believe, 4 new state champions next weekend.
Yep. The
Gaffney,
only one standing.
The only one that has a chance to repeat, but 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, we're going to crown a, not, or at least not a defending champion. In the other 4 classifications. So that's really exciting to see some kind of fresh blood getting to hoist the trophy next weekend.
Yeah, Anthony says Dillon over Beaufort by 2 TDs. Certainly could happen. If they get that run game going with Martin and McCollum, they could roll over the Eagles. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, a lot of good players. If you guys are in an area that's close to a team that's playing, get out there and go to the game, man. It's great football. You know, at this point of the year, all these teams are very high level. Like, they are very good. You're not going to see a sloppy game. You're not going to see a scrub team. These guys can play some ball. You really enjoy it. Go out and check out a game this Friday night. Hats off to all the teams that are still in it. Obviously, the goal every year is to practice on Thanksgiving. All these teams who are here have made it, so hats off to all 10 that are left. But should be some great, actually 20, I guess, that are left, John. Excuse me, not 10, 20 teams that are left. Hats off to all those guys. But yeah, for John Epps, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our Moving the Chains Upper State and Lower State preview show. We will catch you guys next week.